Morning, everyone. So this is our sixth video, and today I'm going to start going over the final PPE report. I think that this recording and the next one will probably be the most helpful for you as you prepare to complete that report, and kind of something to keep in mind as you're working through your PPE, so you know what you have to report on. All right, I think that these recordings might be helpful, later on as well. And so I'll make sure to keep them active. And so under student resources, click on final PPE report instructions. All right. Again, I'm not going to read all this stuff up here, but there are some learning outcomes that we have developed for you in terms of what we would like to see for our students that have completed a PPE. Okay, so please take some time to read them. Final PPE report, some kind of overall guidelines here. As a reminder, it will be submitted in HIM 4556. And again, you should take time during and in between the PPE and the start of that seminar course to fully develop the PPE report. It should be submitted as a MS Word document. It should be double spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman or Arial font. It should include a cover page with your name, the name and address of the PPE site. I would say that obviously for those of you going on site, this is easy. For those of you that are doing virtual PPEs, just put virtual placement, okay? The name and title of the PPE site mentor. Again, if you're going on site, that's an easy thing to respond to. In terms of the name and title of the site mentor, for those of you doing virtual PPEs, put the mentor down that oversaw your your project, okay? And then the dates of the PPE, so your start and finish there, okay? You'll include a table of contents for the entire report, and that would include page numbers. And then the content of the report should be laid out as according to this outline I have here below, okay? All right, so as I've shared before, there are 6 sections to the final PPE report. And the first one is your project, okay? So in that project section of your final PPE report, you're going to provide an introduction and overview of the project. You're going to describe your action plan, so what you did to carry out the project, the methodology that you use, so any data, resources, supporting documentation that you used to complete the project, the results or recommendations or findings, so what was kind of the result of you producing this project or working on this project, and then the deliverable. So whatever it was that you provided to your project mentor should be also shared within this section. If your mentor asks you to present the project that you completed, we would like you to include any presentation slides or any other information that you included in that presentation. And of course, any references or resources specific to your project. I'm going to go into more depth on this as we move along here. The next section would be the content area essays. You're going to complete 5 of those, very straightforward. Use a heading that tells me what the content area is for each of these. And again, I'll be explaining more of that below. There is a workflow analysis. So you will be creating a workflow diagram of a process at the PPE site, and then you'll analyze that process and provide a report with your recommendations and some of your findings. For those of you completing a virtual PPE, I am still working on this section. I'm really hoping to find a workflow that an organization has, and I can record them discussing the workflow and sharing some information about that, and then you'd all work through the same workflow. So I want it to be obviously reality based and even helpful to that site that we use to share their process. You're going to complete section 4 on management and leadership principles. You're going to interview a leader, somebody preferably in a management or supervisory position. We're going to discuss theory X and theory Y, supervisory, what am I trying to say here? Supervisory styles later on in this course in Unit 4. And so we will talk about interview questions at that time. But just so you know, you will be conducting an interview with an individual. You'll be developing an org chart, and um, then to complete or round out this section, you're going to develop a paper where you assess the management functions performed by that leader that you interviewed. The org chart is specific to the department, so that leader works in. I don't expect you to provide an org chart for an entire organization. Okay. You're going to conduct an exploration interview as well, and this would make up the 5th component of the PPE report. You're going to develop some interview questions and interview that individual, and then summarize the interview with that professional. And this is somebody that is working in a completely non-traditional role, okay, or setting. And so somebody not working in a traditional HIM department at an acute care facility or a clinic, okay, somebody that's in a different role outside of the department. And then to finish up the final PPE report, you're going to develop a reflection paper. So of course, your thoughts and feelings on the PPE itself. Okay. So for this video, I'll cover the first 3 sections of this final PPE report, and I'll apologize in advance if this presentation gets a little bit longer than my previous ones have been, but I think it's all important information, and I hope that you'll use it to develop a strong final PPE report. Okay. All right, the PPE project. So that first section. We give the guideline that the PPE project should take the student approximately 20 hours to complete. However, in this time of COVID, we know that that might not be possible because we're providing shorter PPEs. So I'm guessing maybe half that amount of time, or, somewhere in the middle there. That it would take you to complete it. They could contact you in advance of the PPE if there's research or other things they want you to do in preparation to starting the project. For those of you conducting virtual PPEs, I believe that you'll be working directly with that mentor just when the project is assigned to get started on that. And so I don't anticipate any preparatory work. You would take credit and count hours and track hours for anything you do related to that project. Okay. We do ask that site mentors or project mentors review the work and provide feedback to you on your student evaluation. I'll also be reviewing the report and would provide you with a score as part of your, final PPE report. So that will be scored by rubrics, and those are listed here in this report on this final PPE report page. Okay. There is a information document that we do, a PPE project information document that we do provide to mentors in advance, and so it's always our hope that they complete that for you so that you have a good starting point to kick off your project. For those of you doing virtual PPEs, we have asked all mentors, project mentors, to develop one of those documents, and we're hoping to provide that information to you immediately when you sign up for your project so that you have kind of also a starting point and have some information for you, or have some information in order to prepare for your first meeting with that mentor. Okay. So each of these sections of the final PPE report are going to have some specific instructions. Okay. So make sure you're reading this very thoroughly and have an understanding. Okay. So again, you're going to develop a double space report. We don't want this one to exceed eight pages. So work to write clearly and concisely. The figures and tables and appendices, PowerPoint slides, or any additional resources or references and documentation do not make up that 8 pages, okay? I would like you to definitely include any APA citations when applicable. So if you're, for example, methodology section, you are explaining all the resources you used, I want to see citations for those resources if possible, okay? You do not need to cite interviews. Internal policies, I'm also going to be a little bit more lenient on, I'll be honest with you, they're really hard to cite. And so just making reference to those specific policies that you may be using from the site would be great. Okay, then you would address elements 1 through 8 below, and I'll get to those in a second. We, of course, want you to follow good professional writing, structure and grammar, and avoid spelling errors and all of that good stuff. This is also important. So if your project contains any type of protected health information, we would like you to kind of make mock documents or make examples to demonstrate that the type of data that you use to complete the project, okay? And I am definitely available to answer any questions you may have about that. So if it's sensitive information, sometimes even financial information, okay, that is sensitive. If you're working with any of that, make sure you get clear guidance from your mentor about what can and cannot be shared in class and with me. Okay. And so make sure that you reach out to me too with any questions you may have on that. And then I also want you to make sure that you have titles, section titles, to identify each of these areas that are addressed here. Okay. All right. So this is the content section. Hold on, I'm just getting my bearings here. Okay, so so within this PPE report section of your final PPE report, you know, this is very confusing. This project section, you're going to have pretty kind of like 8 sections in itself, and so the first is an introduction. Okay, to the project, an overview of the project, and I want you to develop a strong problem statement. So first, the title of the project, the supervisor of your project. This is where the project title comes in, or sorry, project problem statement comes in. Excuse me, everyone. I'm trying to get through this quickly, and evidently I need to slow down. Okay, so your problem statement. There's a lot of guidance online on how to develop a problem statement. And I do have a link right here from Ashford University, okay, that provides some guidance on developing one. A description of the project, the purpose of the project. So really explain why you're completing the project. What is the problem that you're trying to overcome for the organization or address? Be clear in that. Also, the timeline. So what timeline did the mentor give you? And then the deliverable. Just provide a brief explanation of what that final product is that you're going to provide to the site. Okay. Your strategy and action plan. So identify the approaches, strategies you considered in solving the problem or completing the project. Define your strategy. Identify your action plan. So the steps you're going to take to complete the project. Then the methodology that you use. So these are your, you know, data analysis, data collection, interviews, resources, all of that good stuff that you use to kind of carry out that action plan should be addressed in the methodology section. Then your results, recommendations, findings. So this is an important section because maybe through your research you discovered something else that maybe the organization needs to consider. What are the results of your research and your findings from the project? And then at the end, you're going to, in this section, you're going to provide the actual end product. So whatever that is, if it's a policy, if it's a presentation, if it's a decision tree, whatever that end product is, you're going to share a copy of that here. Okay. And of course, I shared earlier that if you have any presentation slides or other supporting evidence that you use, definitely include that here. And then your references. Okay. I'm not going to go through the grading rubric, but essentially it is everything here addressed. And so, like, basically, we need you to use this as your checklist. Okay. And to make sure that you've addressed everything. Okay. Content areas. All right. So the content areas and the associated essay requirements here are intended to really kind of guide you and allow you to apply and integrate the knowledge that you've gained through your PPE. Okay. So you're going to pick 5 content areas. And you're going to address them each in an essay. Okay. We want you again to try to use some of the interview questions that I went over in my previous video, and of course here on this side here, content areas and interview questions. So you'll use those to help you gather information about the content area, and then in turn help you write this essay. So for each content area, I'm looking for a 2 to 3 page double spaced essay. Okay, it talks a little bit here about what an informative essay is. Okay, I want you to assume that in your audience knows nothing or very little about the content area. By doing that, I'm able to see your full comprehension of the content area. Okay, so explain your thoughts, elaborate on your ideas, and what you saw, okay, and what you want to share. Please use first person when you're writing this. I've provided some writing prompts below to guide your writing, and so make sure you're using those. And of course, grammar, spelling, comprehension and depth will be taken into consideration when I grade these. Again, a grading rubric follows this section. Okay, so each essay should be written with these sections. Okay, so you should have an introduction where you provide any background and the purpose of your essay. So why did you select the topic? Clearly and thoroughly explain the content area, whether it is a person, a role, a process, a project, a policy, whatever it is. Okay, the body of the document should explain the content area you've chosen, and you should address, 2 to 3 of the writing prompts I have below. Okay. Of course, you don't have to stick within those writing prompt guidelines. Those are just there to help you kind of develop these essays. Okay. I really want to give you a lot of leeway with these essays because they can be anything you want, anything you find interesting. Okay. And then in the body here, we want you to also ensure that each paragraph provides information that supports the overall purpose of the essay. So if you're saying that the purpose is to inform me on this project that you're writing about, make sure that it does that, okay? We want you to use appropriate, relevant, and compelling information to illustrate your mastery of the subject and your understanding of the content area. So explaining the relationship of the content area to HIM course content, this is a must. I really want you to do this, okay? And so answer the question, how did your exploration of the content area connect to your academic work? And I want you to provide 2 examples of course content from readings, assignments, projects, presentations from courses that you've taken, and relate that to this content area, okay? And then lastly, your conclusion, I want you to concisely summarize the information that you shared up here in the body of your essay, and then any concluding thoughts you have on the content area, okay? All right, so writing prompts. Really, I'm not going to go over these. I think that would really extend this recording, and I don't want to do that. So please take the time to read these, especially when you're getting ready to interview individuals that may be addressing a content area you're interested in. Okay. All right. Here's the grading rubric for the content areas, and this rubric will be applied to each and every individual essay. So make sure that you're following these rubric guidelines for each essay. All right, the last section for this recording is the workflow analysis. And so, I mentioned earlier what my intent is for our virtual PPE students, and so I'm still working on that, and I will provide more clarification on that as it gets closer. But let's just kind of pretend right now that I'm able to provide you all with those of you doing a virtual PPE that I am providing you with a recording, and you're going to be completing this section of the report as outlined here. And for those of you that are going on site to a PPE organization, you're going to kind of just find a workflow that interests you. Sitting it talks here about the fact that you're going to be meeting with individuals, different people while you're at the PPE site, and so as you meet with them and observe their work, identify a process that interests you and a process that you think could be made more efficient, or a process that the site would like assistance in making more efficient. So that's something you can ask your mentor about. Do you have something that you're looking at maybe revising, or something that you think could be maybe more efficient? And that would be probably very helpful to your mentor. Okay. So once you have that process in mind, you're going to follow the instructions below to create a workflow diagram. You're going to analyze that workflow, and then you're going to report about that process in the area of improvement and areas of opportunity that you identify. Okay. All right. So here's some discussion about identifying a current as is process at the PPE site. Again, I'm not going to read this to you because it's basically what I just shared above. But then you're going to develop a workflow diagram for that current as is process that clearly identifies the who, what, and when. Okay. The as is workflow diagram should help identify the steps and activities involved in the process, who completes each step, the technology and or resources used, the policies and rules that determine the who, what, when, where, why, how of each step and how it's executed, the supervision involved, what other people might be involved in the process, what information is needed to complete each step in the process. And then you can definitely find workflow examples in the Oaks and Waters textbook, and you'll likely use workflow diagram applications and develop workflow diagrams, using Kaku or Lucidchart or MS Office. Okay, you probably have developed these types of diagrams in your courses, in your HIM or CIS courses, and so I want you to think back to those. I want you to use standard flowchart symbols within your workflow diagram, so it needs to look professional. There are examples of symbols here at this link. When you, after you've developed the workflow diagram, then you're going to analyze the diagram. You're going to be looking for bottlenecks, sources of delay, rework, role ambiguity, all of these things that are also defined in the Oaks and Waters textbook, or you could find obviously through Google. Okay. So you're going to analyze it and find these. Okay. Then in a 2 to 3 page double-spaced report, you're going to provide an explanation of the process you chose to analyze, why you selected it, then how you conducted your analysis of the as-is process and the findings. So these areas of opportunity, you're going to discuss those. What areas did you find that could be improved? Okay. And then lastly, you're going to share your thoughts on how the identified areas of opportunity could be remedied and your solution. Okay, address how your solution could improve the process. So I want you to make a proposal. What could be done to improve the process? All right. Okay, so that kind of concludes this part of the final PPE report, and I will be addressing the next 3 in another recording. Again, here's the rubric for that workflow analysis. Okay. All right. I hope you found this helpful, and more to come.